All right, today I am joined by Larry Fields, my good friend, and in some of our businesses at the city, Larry's actually been real helpful in making some of it happen. So appreciate you being here.
I'm glad to be here. Nice to be with you this morning.
If you don't mind, just tell us a little about yourself.
I was born and reared in Pittsburgh. I'm one of 15 children, 10 boys and 5 girls. I'm kind of on the, not the youngest, but I'm in the younger end of it. We all went to school, public schools in Pittsburgh, all graduated from high school in Pittsburgh. And so Pittsburgh's been our home and area for well over 100 years. But Dad was a laborer on the Kansas City Southern Railway, just a laborer. And we he's had a big giant vegetable garden, always had pigs and a lot of times a milk cow.
So we're heading up here to the best hotel. A lot of memories for you there.
My uncle Bob, Bob Titus, he was a World War I veteran, and he was injured and he had lung disease, mustard gas in World War I. He was a janitor there, and we would go up on, there was a restaurant, Italian restaurant, I think it was on the 7th floor, and there's that big deck out there that was flat. We'd go up there, a couple of my brothers and I would work with Uncle Bob. He was pretty weak. We'd go get stuff out of there and hauled stuff down in the elevators, and Uncle Bob helped Uncle Bob. He'd bring the empty drums in and take them back up. But Hotel Best was a beautiful building then, and it is now.
So we just drove by the Frisco Center. You've owned that for how long?
We've owned that, we bought that in 2016.
So what kind of drove you to purchase that? That was after you retired?
I retired and returned back to Pittsburgh on purpose. Now that's I have kids that tried to get me to go to say, Dad, come to you know, we're West Coast, or come to Idaho, or come to Virginia. No, we're going back to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's home, and it really is home. And, I've been by that building 1,000 times over the years and things, been in here and gone. But I was gone 35, 36 years. When we returned, I told my wife, I said, that building's still empty. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to do my best to buy that. This building was actually built by the Kansas City Fort Scott in Memphis. It says Frisco, but the Frisco owned Kansas City Fort Scott in Memphis. It does about 8 or 9 events, 7, 8 events a month.
And that building's a historical, it's on the
National Historic Site, yes. That's the National Park. That is on the, and that both of my buildings that we redid are on the National. They're on the Kansas Historic Site as well as the National. They're all, the old Pitcraft building as it's called is on the National, and the Frisco is on the National. And that's good for Pittsburgh. That brings, there's not a whole lot of buildings in Pittsburgh. The Hotel Best, Stillwell, Russ Hall, Pittsburgh Library.
Talk about the Fun Zone.
Fun Zone is was built in same railroad actually started and built it. Then it was turned over to a company out of Chicago that ended up buying it. And they made coal mining equipment. They actually made hard hats, they made lunch buckets. They built spikes and shovels and tools for the coal mining. They had 320 employees there. Norman Miller was involved, Darren Barley Construction. Hikus was there for quite a long time.
Hikus did some of the stone around the windows.
Yeah, all the windows was bricked in, and he did all the stone work and all the tuck pointing, his group, and they did great. They were there about 6, 7, about maybe 2 months.
Yeah, he does amazing.
They do really good work. Yeah.
Where's your passion from historic buildings and restoring those? Where does that come from?
I think that comes from my 45 years in the railroad industry. I've honestly been in 500 to 1,000 old, beautiful brick buildings built. When the railroad built their building, that B&B is not bed and breakfast, it's bridge and building. Okay. Since the 1840s. So everybody thinks it's about bed and breakfast, but it's, you know, and it is, but bridge and building is what it's been. And they build these buildings to last 100 years. That's their plan for them. 3 bricks, 16-inch walls, and floors are 8 inches thick wood. Heavy.
You just figured they needed another 100? So
and they needed 100, and this the Frisco will last another 100. I was working at Jones Motel as a curb hop. I was in the 6th grade, and I worked 4 p.m. to 10:30 p.m.
Really?
6 nights a week. And Jones Motel was located right there where the fire station is on West 4th Street.
When you were at 11?
Yes. And Bob Morris would stop there and get a Coke sometimes, you know, just driving around looking. And I had brothers that worked at the White Grill. And Bob said, why don't you come to work for me at the White Grill? And I said, okay, when you want me. He said, well, you can start tomorrow. I said, no, I got to give notice. So I gave Ann Jones 2 weeks notice. And she said, well, good. I hope you make a lot more money. And remember, now you got a job here if you want to come back. And I said, okay, thank you. And so I went to work at the White Grill, and I worked through junior high and high school. And most of the guys there were older than me. Quite a few were college guys. But I worked from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. 6 nights a week. All through junior. And I got up and went to school. I had library first class, and it was John White and Miss White. They were husband and wife. They both taught there. Mr. White taught printing. I had printing and and library the first 2 hours. And if I went to sleep, why, they'd leave me alone. They said they knew I'd worked late, and they were nice. They said, "Listen, Larry, it's okay to take a little nap, but you got to get your homework."
It was library.
Right here to the right is where we live, but
right here.
yeah. But the houses are gone.
Sure.
Just beyond this, not this house, the next one down is they're gone.
We're on East 20th, right off of Freaky.
Yeah, just a little bit of a low spot right here. This is where it was at. And Uncle Bob's house was here, and Grandpa's was here. So
15 kids.
15 kids, you know. I asked my mom, because honestly, my mom washed clothes. We had well water. We didn't have rural water at the time. We had well water for washing clothes and stuff. And you had a pump, you'd pump out, and had a gasoline motor on a washing machine. She had a washing machine, and I asked her, "What's the biggest, invention that since, my mother, I think, was born in 1910. And she said, "Oh, no doubt." She said, "The greatest thing ever was a washing machine. Wasn't a TV, wasn't an airplane, wasn't a car. It was a washing machine."
Save her time.
Yeah.
Most people don't know this story, but we've built a transload facility out here, and you were instrumental in helping us actually get the land from the Russell family. So can you just kind of tell me how you knew the Russells and a little bit about your role doing that, because I don't think most people know.
And Jim and Linda, really, really good people. They raised their family here, and they moved away and went to Dallas, kept the farm. They'd come here, a lot, spend the weekends, and they were successful in a construction company, residential housing in Dallas. And they wanted to sell it and move where the kids and grandkids were, but they wanted to sell it as a unit. And I introduced you to them, and I talked to them. They said, "Well, we would love for the city of Pittsburgh to have it. It's an industrial park, industrial area. It'll help create jobs. It'll help Pittsburgh, and they'd like to see that happen." So they were really pleased to be able to sell it to the city of Pittsburgh and not just break it up into pieces and have it all chopped up. And they were good friends. All I did was make the introductions and tell them it would be treated right. And I believe you've named the street after them and some things in there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So they really like that idea of being able to do that. So Pittsburgh's doing well. I mean, you have to have a rail-served industrial park for some things. You just have to.
Well,
Watco does a great job with that.
I mean, they came to us and said they developed the transload facility, and they have. I mean,
yes, they are. They do a great job with it.
They knocked it out, and we've just been amazed at the success they've had.
Yeah, their growth is, they have ports along the Gulf Coast and things, and they can bring import stuff that comes in. They can come to the Midwest, so they've got assets and things, and they really do a nice job with it.
So tell us a little bit about Sookie.
Sookie was born in Soul City, well, outside of Soul City. Her dad was actually a coal miner, and she came here at Texas A&M International in Laredo, Texas, to go to school. Only one in her family to go to college, and we met in Laredo, Texas. And, we hit it off pretty good. So we've been married 25 years.
So we're out here at the transload. So kind of, you're in the business, and I don't want you to speak for Watco, but kind of what's the impact of a facility like this on Pittsburgh?
This allows huge companies to get close to Pittsburgh. They can bring in 5-6 carloads, and if they can afford to do it. So big companies buy big bulk. They can come in here, have a big facility. They got lots of trucking room to come in here and make their turnarounds, get highway access quickly. And then they can have big elevators and big things away from the city part of it, out where the land is cheaper and they've got more room, and they have buffer zones around them. So they can truck in and out, and they can move in here and get truckloads and move it to various locations. This is a hub, and it's a spoke going out of here. So they can bring any kind of a dry product in here.
This is just a spoke off of this?
This would be the main line, and this is a spur track.
And they go around?
Yeah, and they can bring in loads. They can bring in lumber, poles. They can bring in liquids as well. It comes around.
7 cars out here right now. Looks like they're...
And they have plenty of room for expansions. About 2 weeks before he graduated from school, my dad would give each of the boys kind of the same speech. And mine was, "Larry," and I'd heard the speech several times, "School's going to be out in a couple of weeks. You need to be thinking Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines." Those are your choices, sort of. You need to be moving away. I said, "Okay, I'll go to the Army." And I had...
How'd you pick the Army over anything else?
Johnny, a couple of them were in the Air Force. Bill and Tim were both Air Force, and Johnny was Navy. I don't swim that well. I've always liked to work.
Did you have professional goals? How does that work?
I wanted to be, I thought if I ever made superintendent, having a big territory, 500-600 miles, that would be my biggest goal. And I spent time in the safety department and all the various departments. Mr. Doremus, the third, William Neal Doremus, and you'll see that name all in 11 states in the Midwest. He and I hit it off pretty well. People were afraid of him. I really got to know him well and liked the guy, loved the guy, and he really, and he liked the railroad. This is Dramus Park, and this is William Neal Dramus, chairman of the board of Kansas City Southern Railway and Industries. Family was there for over 70 years. Bill and I were good friends and worked, I had an office next to him for about 15 years in Kansas City. And Herb Hockaday was president of Hallmark Cards, and great friends, and Irv was executive vice president of the railway company for a number of years. He would speak to somebody that was driving spikes or sweeping the floor as quick as he would somebody that was a president of the bank. He was just that kind of a guy. Well, and they donated a lot. The Dramuses donated, honestly, millions of dollars a year. The Dramus family, anonymously. Mr. Bill Dramus would tell me, I always called him the Hat. He always had a hat on. I always called him the Hat. And he'd say, if you put your name on something, all that does is get you more mail and somebody ringing your phone trying to say, hey, I need somebody to build a new set of dog houses or something. And he said, so do it anonymously. If you want to do it, don't go out there and wave a flag and say, hey, look at me. So that's, I think that's a point well taken. Help everyone you can and help where you can, and everybody can help a little bit. Everyone can do something to help. Pick up, clean up, do something. The city's doing better today than I've been around Pittsburgh now for 70 years. You know, it's easy to complain. We all complain easily and think, you know, the grass is too tall, or they got by with something. His grass is a foot tall, mine, and I got the mean letter. You know, the grass Nazi sent me a letter, and my guy across the street didn't get one. You know, something like that.
Did you enjoy the experience?
I enjoyed it very much, and for me, it's real simple. If it's good for the city and the people, then you're in favor of it. Not that if it's good for John Doe or his part of town, or it's good for the southwest part of town, but not the east. If it's good for the city, it needs to be done. There was about 20 years through the 50s and 60s that the economy, at least in this part of the country, it was coal-based and transportation, because the coal mines would have never worked without the railroad. It was symbiotic. They had to have each other to operate.
And that was our boom time.
And that was the boom times. And so when that ended, Pitt State was really the backbone that kept a lot of things going here. They had a lot of employees, they paid well, had good benefits, they brought a lot of people into town. So, you know, Pitt State gets a lot of credit, but they deserve a lot of credit. You know, I know two families, and they're retired. These are the grandma and grandpas that have never lived in Pittsburgh. They've moved to Pittsburgh. One of them has a son that works for Watco. He's got a good job at Watco. And so the grandkids are here, and his son is here, and family. And they've moved here and bought a house in Pittsburgh. And I know another family, and they bring their kids to the fun zone down here. And another family, same type thing. They got a daughter that's a professor at Pitt State, and they've moved here from Oklahoma City, and bought a house in Pittsburgh, and they live here and near the kids. So they bring other people, not just a professor and their family. They bring extended family into it. Watco does the same thing. Pittsco does the same. Even Jake's out here does the same thing.
We're over here by Lakeside.
Yes, Pico, Pittsburgh Ice Cream Company, Pico.
I don't think it's the building.
It's the other side. The building's gone. The other side of the school. I remember when my brother Bill came home from the Air Force. First $100 bill I ever seen. My dad had a 50, maybe a 1947 8 Studebaker pickup. We looked like the Beverly Hillbillies. If you remember that. About 10 of us in the back of that. There wasn't any rules. You know, we were all hanging in the back of it. And we came to the Pico Ice Cream Company. My brother Bill was in his uniform, and he had a $100 bill, and we all got ice cream. That was a big deal. Well, Homer Cole, we all loved Homer, and Homer was around here and ran the bowling alley forever, and was really a big.
He used to bring some real big bowling tournaments.
Yes, he did. He brought a lot of bowling tournaments.
Fundraising and stuff.
And he was a good guy. He was a gunner on a B-17, as big as he was. Think about him being a gunner on a B-17, and he had his own. You know, he shot and a glancing blow in his head. You know, when it went through the side of the airplane. He was a big World War II veteran and a hero. They all were.
Flat out. Here's the fun zone.
Fun zone. Good building, 15,000 square foot. Got 48-foot ceilings in the one room. The one room's 130 or 40 feet long and 80 feet wide. And all that beautiful stonework and stuff is all Hicus, and got some murals, and got murals inside.
What do you think of this Gorilla Rising project? Have you heard about it?
I think it's wonderful. I think it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. They've been working on it a lot. So it's really is going, and it's going to help downtown. A lot of people don't realize how much these people come. They want to see this stuff.
Look at the impact that Block 22
That's right. And
this is 2 or 3 times as big as that.
Yeah. I'm proud to be in Pittsburgh. I'm thrilled I grew up here, had the opportunity to grow up here. You know. So we had a great life here. It's a great city. Is it perfect? No place is. But I'm proud to be in Pittsburgh. And if anything I can do, and I do want to help Pittsburgh. And I appreciate the people of Pittsburgh. They're plain, you know, They care about being here. They care about families, family oriented. And Pittsburgh's going to do well and continue to do well.